Hi everybody, welcome to AV Insights and Advice. My name is Gary, this is Alan, and we are going to talk about some event planning hacks for all y'all planners out there today. And we'll start off with rehearsal times. So,
this is a good one.
You like that one?
This is a fantastic one. This is something that gets overlooked every time. Rehearsal times it's not just an allocation of an hour here, hour there. You have to really talk about the content. Is the CEO a dynamic speaker? Is he going to take a long time to do his rehearsal? Or you have some of those people that just come in and they want to just hear themselves for a second and they're good to go and they're going to go rehearse in their bedroom or in their hotel room. So it's something to really consider and have that block of time to allow for any technical challenges. Anything we might want to increase, enhance, it needs to be allocated for on that time frame.
And both are good. Like at Clarity, we encourage everyone to do rehearsals, and sometimes it's a quick, hey, check, and they're done, but that actually helps the production company out. To see, just hear the person's voice and get an idea of what the stage looks like and feels like. And then there's others where they want to rehearse the entire thing. So, the hack here is really, no matter what you feel your presenters want to do, always allocate time to do rehearsals. And a lot of times you'll end up using it even if you're not planning to. And if you don't, you have that time for you and the tech crew to go through it on your own and maybe even grab a cocktail. Another event hack we want to talk about are site visits. Are site visits critical?
Site visits are critical, and they're not just for where your signage is going. Right? It's everything from where's the loading dock in consideration to your event, to your main stage.
Planners may not think about that part.
They really don't, but it's a big consideration because that takes time to get from point A to point B. Also,
I've had some really shitty loading dock experiences.
Oh, I'll bet.
Terrible.
Like
you can't even get the truck in there, so you have to park down the road and then go through it. So
how about the ones where you have to put the semi on the street?
Yeah.
And block the street, and then there's permitting.
I was out there stopping traffic with my cell phone light. And it was risky, but we did it.
Yeah, the site visits are critical, absolutely. It gives the production team an opportunity to look at the entire space. We're also going to be able to give some professional advice. If we notice that the elevators are further away from your meeting rooms, keep in mind that takes time to get up and down those environments. Does your hotel only have 2 elevators and you have 14,000 people showing up? It's going to take time to get everybody in the environments. So yeah, site visits absolutely are critical.
Yeah, and I like site visits because, it also gives us a chance to meet the hotel staff, meet the in-house teams, engineering teams, the AV teams, things like that. And really, at the end of the day, we're all here to make that event successful and work. And so, there's the logistical side of a site visit, there's the relationship side of a site visit, and we always want to do site visits as much as possible, just like rehearsals. These are things that ultimately all roll in and make your event successful. So plan some site visits and let's go to those venues and check them out.
Let's talk about some hotel works. So the hotel works for you. They are a service provider, right? So keep that in mind when you're going into contract negotiations are big. As a production partner, Clarity wants the opportunity to have the conversation with you ahead of time. So we actually have some great professional experience that could benefit you from overspending.
I love this topic. I think so often it's overlooked in some areas, right? The planners know, the planner's life is hotel negotiations and contracts, right? But sometimes some of the stuff that may cost you more than you think is overlooked. So power, rigging, liaison fees, all those sorts of things. And so, the main goal is that you consult with professionals in the industry, whether it be Clarity has a lot of experience doing this, but really anybody before you put ink to that contract, because a little bit of change in language or a couple sentences will save you tens of thousands of dollars over the course of your event. And if you have multiple events, even more. And you have the leverage because you're the customer and the hotel wants your business. A lot of times you're booking several hundred rooms and 4, 5, 6 days of this space in F&B, which is another big profit center for the venues. So for you to ask for, hey, we want an extra day to load in free of cost, or we're not going to pay $20,000 for internet or whatever it is, they're willing to work with you. But the most important thing is you got to consult some experts in the market and bring that up while you're in negotiations, put that in writing and get that signed, and then you're gonna see a huge benefit.
Yeah, you bring up, internet costs, things like that, power costs. These are great negotiating tools, and these are fantastic for people like us at Clarity, because we can actually go in there and say, and look at the space and say, hey, we don't really need extra power in this room, so we can cut it down. And we do a lot of cost savings in that respect. Space allocation.
Yes.
That's huge.
Yes.
Can your 1,000 people fit in that room? Maybe. Let's
not.
take a look at it, and let's negotiate that cost in the actual budget ahead of time.
Yeah, and one last piece on this is unions. There's unions have been around a long time. They're not going anywhere. But what we've learned is, some people label cities as union cities, but the venues in those cities are not always union, or if they are, there's certain pieces that are union and certain pieces that are not. That's really important. Like, one example is everyone thinks every hotel in Vegas is a union property and they're gonna have to spend tons of money on union. It's not the case.
Right.
There's several examples of venues in Vegas where just the power and rigging is union, which is standard, but you can go in with a Clarity type company and do all of the labor and all the production. There's others which are not. So depending on your goal and some of the other elements of why you're choosing a venue, Clarity can definitely be a consultant when it comes to union and how that's gonna roll into your spend for the event and whether you should or shouldn't maybe consider that property. Same in Chicago, same in New York, same in Miami, all those places.
Yep.
So,
if you do end up in a union town, it doesn't necessarily mean you're gonna have that exorbitant spend.
yeah.
But it's going to be different. There are some things and fees and penalties that we need to be considered.
Yep. So get ahead of those contracts, talk to us. We have a lot of people here at Clarity that have years and years of experience on all different sides of the industry. We can definitely help with the contract negotiations, getting the right verbiage into those contracts to protect you against some of those increased fees.
Oh, budget allocation. Whew. That's a big one. It's a big one. How do you allocate a whole budget? Where's that budget come from? That's one of the biggest things. This is a conversation I love getting into with meeting planners is, there's a budget number. Great, where'd that number come from? Is that the CEO going, I have this number?
Right.
Or is that a real life, hey, we spent this last year?
Yeah.
What's the consideration there?
Lots of pieces go into that. So, we do want to know how the budgets are created. Right? And where did that number come from? Because, especially the past, 12, 18 months with inflation and all this volatility and everything, like, budgets are just all over the place. And what I would say, sometimes we're told like, hey, we don't have a budget. And I'm like, everybody has a budget, right? And so it helps your partners and your vendors to have some sort of guideline when it comes to budget, because then they can offer you products and services that fit there, and then they can also offer you upgrades or additions that you can consider. But so if you don't have a budget, I would recommend trying to build one based on several different data points, what you've done in the past, how you value production or how you value this experience you want to create, and then bring that topic up to your executive team and say, hey, what's the experience we want to create for our attendees and why are they coming here? And if we all agree we want this amazing experience because this is a big spend, we're doing this once a year, then we do need to allocate dollars to that. We need to allocate a budget that's going to allow us to do that. You can also reach out to, like I said earlier, to different people in the industry and get kind of a temperature read on what pricing is in the market for certain things. So that you can then go to your executive team with some input and say, hey, I got some of this, data from my partners, and this is how the pricing is. We may need to increase our budgets, accordingly if we want to.
Yeah, that's a great point. FMV, or fair market value, is important to look at year after year because it changes dramatically. We came out of COVID and things went up in price. So you have to take that in consideration when you're doing your budget allocation. And then, Gary, like you said, that customer or that attendee experience, can you put a price on that though? And what price do you put on that, right? That's hard to do, but it has to be done.
Yeah. The other side of it is we also understand that budgets fluctuate at customers, right? They're not always going up. Not every single company is like knocking it out of the park every year, and we get that. So, also be very transparent with your partners on where you are as a company. We're still doing this event, but it's been a difficult year for us. We need to taper it down a little bit. dude, be transparent about that. Like, be open, don't hide that, because your partners need all the information they can get to give you the best show for whatever you can do. So we love it when everything's going up, but we're real, and we know that that's not always the case.
And that conversation being done early too, even in the RFP process, right? That transparency during that time frame is critical for us.
Yeah, for sure.
Beware of extras at the end. What does that mean?
That means that sometimes you go into an event and you may believe that your budget is X, and then you do the event and it's Y at the end, and it's a significant gap or increase between that.
How's that happen?
So you have to be aware of that. I like the analogy of construction projects. If you've done a remodel in your house, or you've done any construction project of significance, everybody will you could talk to anybody, they're gonna say, have a redundancy. I mean, have a budget for increases. Like, it's gonna take longer than you think. Once they break open all the walls, they're gonna see things that you don't know ahead of time, and you're gonna spend more. So, take that. It's the same for events. These are big events. There's lots of moving parts, and so you want to be aware of that and budget a percentage into potential adds or changes on site. Well, that wraps up our hacks for event planners. We hope this was very beneficial. Again, Al and Gary, and we'll see you next time.